Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are doing a book from one of our, or is a request from one of our fans, our patrons, or whatever you call it, coffee supporters. I always say patrons because, you know, Patreon is a thing.
Yeah.
It's like the Kleenex of or Band-Aid of brands or something. But yeah, we if you didn't know, we have a coffee support page, a ko-fi.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, page. And that is our support page for this podcast. And if you're a Blue and Gold member, you get to recommend books to us. And one of our supporters, Otaku Mike, recommended this book we're doing this week called Five Ghosts. So, John, had you ever heard of this book before?
Nope.
Anything else? Or
Nope. I'm kidding.
You're very taciturn today.
No, I felt like what's his face? Corbin Dallas and like what's
were you nervous in the service, my man?
Yeah. Anyway, no, I had never heard of this before. You said we're reading. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, Otaku Mike's had a good track record so far.
Yeah, you did Battle Pug last time. And this time, Five Ghosts.
Yeah, and he suggested good manga in the past too. So,
oh yes,
like
of course.
Everything so far, I'm like, okay, we'll give it a shot. And then, like you said, you told me that, so I went and I checked out the generic. What is this about? And I was like, oh, that actually kind of sounds cool. It's like an adventure style story. Kind of sounded like Indiana Jones-esque.
Yeah, something like that. It's got a cool premise, I think. But it's an Image comic by Frank J. Barbary. I think he's
Barbary.
Barbieri. Barbary.
And Chris Mooneyham.
Yes, the art is by Chris Mooneyham. And I've actually heard of Frank Barbary before. He's writing.
Are you sure?
Yes. I don't know how to say his name. I don't know. But I've seen him on like some comics recently that I think he did a Batgirl run that I was looking at that I like the art on as well. But yeah, I don't know. He's around DC Comics a bit that I've seen. But yeah, this came out of nowhere. I mean, at the time, I think last week I explained this, but in 2013 when this came out, I was not reading comics because I was trying to get a job and not spend money on comics. Yeah, so I kind of had like a dead period for 5 years or so in comics where I just missed everything from like 2012 to 2017, basically. I just stopped reading comics. That's not true. I read comics that I wanted. So I think I read every Conan comic that came out, but that's about it. And then like I would buy trades and stuff. I wasn't even like up in the scene at all. And then got back into it. So I missed this book completely. And when I was talking, Mike suggested, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, Five Ghosts? Why do I not know of this title? And like, that's very rare that I've never heard of a title. So, but it makes sense because it's an Image book and it wasn't really like out there like Marvel or DC or something. So, yeah. So this book, the volume 1 is called The Haunting of Fabian Gray. And what do you think of the design of this main character, Fabian?
I liked it. It kind of comes off like you said, little Indiana Jones, little Rocketeer feel.
Yeah, he's got the jacket. He's got the Rocketeer jacket, but it's black.
And then it's weird, like until we learn about it more. He has a samurai sword.
Yeah.
So he's got like a mixture.
He's got a look. We'll say that
okay,
for sure.
Yeah.
Where you just see him and you're kind of like, what's that about? Like, it just makes you intrigued. Like if you were a woman and you saw this man walking, you'd be like, ooh, I like him. He's full of mystery.
I don't know. I don't know why, but
yeah, he's full of mystery is what I liked. But yeah. So also the covers of this, all the variant covers were done by Ben Templesmith, which I'm a big fan of. So I liked all of those. But one thing they kind of spoil, I would say, I guess the crux of this comic. I don't know if they spoil it, but they like definitely lead in the cover.
I thought it was gonna. I thought honestly, this page. I thought those were the chapters.
Oh yeah, that's true. But there's a page that so it says Five Ghosts. That's the name of the comic, obviously, but you don't know why it's called Five Ghosts. Then on like the page right before the first page of the comic in the trade, there's like 5 characters. One's like 1 through 5: the wizard, archer, the detective, the samurai, the vampire. So there's 5 characters. You're like, oh, that's weird. Like, what is that? You know, are those like friends of his? Or is this like BPRD or something? Like,
yeah.
what's going on? And then like within the very beginning of the comic, like the first page, they what it is he's able to channel these 5 personalities or ghosts, we'll say.
Yeah.
As in Five Ghosts is the name of the comic. And
it's like 13 ghosts, but 5.
But 5 and better.
And better.
And better than that movie.
I don't know if my wife would agree, but
dude, you're
Sarah
okay.
loves
I'm
that
gonna
movie.
say Sarah does not have good taste in that movie. All right, okay. I'm not gonna judge her rest of her taste, but that movie is dog shit. All right? And I'm a hard stand on that. Okay, that's going down on the books.
Well, she doesn't like The Descent too, and we
and I like The
The
Descent.
Descent is
She
a
was
good
wrong
movie.
on that as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes people can be wrong, and she is wrong.
We're not dogging on my wife, but
I'm dogging on those.
I have
I'm dogging on
I
those
have
picks.
watched 13 Ghosts a couple times now.
It's terrible. It is terrible. Matthew Lillard is not a scientist.
No, he's one of I will say this, he's one of the few shining things of that movie. Matthew Lillard, when
Okay, I'm gonna
he
say
goes
this.
all in on his
If
acting.
Matthew
and I love
Lillard
it.
is the shining thing in your movie, it's not a good movie.
Oh, come on now. He's a good actor.
Is he?
Yes.
Or is he just a different kind of actor? A special actor who's only in a couple movies and kind of stands out when he's in his roles.
Like Zoinks. Gosh.
Like yeah, or like Scream when he's like getting kind of woozy here.
Anyway, the 5 Ghosts that we're talking about
Anyway, back
today.
to Five Ghosts. Now back from our 13 Ghost break. So yes, we start off and we're in Austria, and it's like World War II times. So there's like a Nazi castle, of course, and this guy named Fabian Gray is breaking into this castle.
But he's not a thief. He's a treasure hunter.
Yes, we got to make that
Belongs
clear.
in a museum.
It belongs in a goddamn museum, even though.
Oh, except not really.
Yeah. I mean,
But he's not stealing it.
he's not stealing it. Well, he's stealing it, but not for like treasury or not
Yeah.
for like
Not the plunder.
thievery. Yeah, not for like wealth.
Yeah.
He's stealing it for another reason. But yeah, we see that he pulls back a bow and like goes from like a mountaintop and shoots it into like one of the towers of the castle. And we see as he does that, there's like a ghostly figure of an archer next to him. So they just give away not give away, but they like lead in right away with their premise, which is this guy can channel 5 different kinds of ghosts and use their powers to help him, get stuff, whatever he's trying to do, whatever his missions are, whatever kind of treasure he's trying to get. That's like in the help of that. So as he gets into the castle, he sees Nazis and he uses the wizard power to make a big hand out of the ground and smashes them, which I thought was cool. He just like completely smashes the Nazis, which is fun. And then he has to like sleuth into like a room that's like guarded with locks and stuff, and he uses the detective, which looks a lot like Sherlock Holmes. And there was only one problem I had with this premise, and that is the vampire.
He's got 5 ghosts, and 4 of them I get.
They fit. Yeah, like I would say 3 of them fit well, very, very well. The
Yes.
detective, the archer, and what was the other one?
Well, there's a wizard, and then there's the samurai.
Yes. Okay, so I would say the detective, the archer, and the samurai kind of fit together because
Yeah.
they seem like literary characters or something. But then the wizard, okay, I'll buy that. I'll fit that in.
That's how you get some magical power, sure.
But then the vampire just kind of comes out of nowhere for me. I know it's supposed to be. It's very clear that this is supposed to be based on like literary figures, so it makes sense in that context of we got Dracula basically, right? But just in the context of like, why would you have a vampire with the samurai? You know what I mean? Like it just seems like it comes out of nowhere. But it's the reason why I think he has it in this is because it's his like berserker rage,
Yeah.
power. So like The samurai can kill people, but it's very like
But if he
honorable or whatever. It's you know.
and like that would be like taking on like a few people, but maybe if
Yes.
there's like a swarm of
Say there's a swarm of spiders that would be attacking you,
or 50 Germans, 50 Nazis.
There you go, 50 Nazis. You call upon the power of the vampire, and so I mean it makes sense the way they use it. I just thought like, okay, that's an interesting figure to have in this lineup of literary figures. So we find out that the gem he finds at this Nazi castle and does take after killing many Nazis with a samurai sword, which is pretty awesome. Which I was like, how do these Nazis? They have fucking guns.
Yeah, they have machine guns.
They have like Tommy guns, or whatever the Nazi equivalent of a Tommy gun was.
Yeah,
and the Mauser gun or whatever the fuck. And they don't shoot him. He's able to like chop them with his samurai sword and cut their heads off and shit. And I'm like, all right, guys, come on, you have guns. He brought a knife to a gunfight. All right.
Yeah, and he won.
He won. Now, if he had magic, if he was using his magic, that might be different. Or the vampire. But that was one question I had is if he's in vampire mode, can he get murdered? Like, can he die? Because it's like, does he have like the actual vampire power?
What if he accidentally goes into vampire mode in the daylight?
Right. Yeah. Like what are the rules of this vampire? But we see the reason why he was looking for this crystal is because he's looking for something called the Dreamstones. And these stones are what give him power, and they are like a portion of them are embedded in his chest. And we don't know how. It's kind of like the mystery of this. But it starts off where he comes back from Austria and he's sleeping with the client who wanted him to get this diamond or jewel. And it turns out it wasn't a Dreamstone, so he got it hoping that it would be a Dreamstone, and he would have stole it if it was. But he's like, oh, it's not. So I'll just bring it back to her. Of course I'm going to sleep with her because, hey, I'm Fabian Gray. So, adventurer and ladies' man. And so he goes to Barcelona to deliver this, and he does end up getting with the lady. And she's a pretty cool, like, lady, I thought. I don't know. At first, she just seems like, she's supposed to be, like, his side piece in the comic, not really important. But I feel like they gave her like a nice little character arc in this first issue, which I liked. But we actually see when he sits up in bed that the stones, the Dreamstones that are like embedded in him, are in his chest and they glow, so they're like actually like illuminated and stuff. They're powerful. But as he leaves Barcelona, he's on a train and we see he's got some crazy fucking nightmares of some Cthulhu tentacles pulling up towards this lady falling, and she's yelling Fabian. And
so we know he's obviously lost somebody then. Yeah,
he's definitely haunted by something that happened in his past, probably related to those growing crystals coming out of his chest. Maybe. And so he wakes up and he gets off the train. Now he wakes up like in London because he took the train. Is there a train that goes from Spain to London?
I guess so.
Maybe in the 40s there was. I don't know. Or multiple trains. He probably took multiple trains. The Hogwarts train. It goes straight from Barcelona to London. So he gets off in London and he meets the other main character in this, who's his buddy named Sebastian. And Sebastian's kind of like his same age Alfred, we'll say. It's like if Alfred was the same age as Batman.
Yeah, that's good.
They're buddies. But he also just doesn't fight or anything usually. He just is like the guy you bounce ideas off of when you're trying to solve mysteries or find treasure. So they kind of talk, and we find out that they were adventurers together with some other woman that, like, there's a picture of, like, them together with a woman. And we're like, oh, what's their relationship? We don't know that yet. And while they're in their study of their mansion, we see that Fabian has, like, what do you call it? Like a spell? Like some sort of
you thought it was like a heart attack at first, but then it's like I guess the power that's within him is like also kind of like unstable.
It's fighting him.
Yeah, it's
trying to get out. It does not, like, we find out that the 5 ghosts that are trapped inside of his body through these dream crystals they don't want to be there.
Yeah, they weren't put there willingly.
Yeah.
They didn't come to him and be like, yes, like they're a partnership. Like they were forced into him, and so they're fighting it. They're constantly trying to get out.
Yeah, and when they're trying to get out, they like take over his body. He doesn't know what happens. He disassociates or whatever, and they like make him levitate. And he's saying things like, or there's multiple people saying things like, where are we? We must escape. And before anything really happens, Sebastian takes a tea kettle and hits him on the head and knocks him out. So that's how we get away from that. It's like every time he starts to freak out, like Sebastian just like knocks him on the head with something, gives him severe brain damage, and then it's like, hey, you're not.
That's why he's got to bounce ideas off him. He's like, I was thinking about something.
I can't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah,
my face doesn't hurt so much here or here.
Just
right
in
here, right in the back where you hit me in the head. Yeah. So then we cut back to Barcelona after he gets knocked out, and we see the woman that he was with. She's owning a bar, or she's at a bar behind the bar. So I'm assuming she's like the owner of this bar. And some guy comes in, and he's like freaky as fuck. He kind
of reminded me of like Mr. Hyde. Like
yes, but he's a little bit more ghoulish. I think. He's got like he looks like he's dead basically. So he comes in being like, I know you know where he is. Like I can smell him all over you or whatever. Because like I guess the power of his crystals, they're drawing this guy in. And so he's like, where is Fabian? And she actually gets a shot off, which I thought was cool. And he's like, is that all you got? And she just has grenades behind the counter of this bar. I'm like, I guess it's World War II. You got to be ready.
Just in case.
Yeah. So she grabs a grenade, and I assume she shoves it in his mouth or in his body, because it seems like his body might be like decomposing or something.
Yeah, because she looked like an eyeball. It was either shot out or it got popped.
Oh yeah, or she shoved it in his eyeball, which is also fun. She shot him in the eyeball, and so that's gone. But he doesn't seem really fazed by it or anything. But he's like, is that all you got? And she like shoves the grenade somewhere, so maybe in his head, and then it explodes. And I thought, wow, that was a pretty badass way for her to go if she's got to go like that, I guess. But and he must have been really good in bed, like. I mean, she just hired him to get a crystal, and he slept with her, and now she's like, I will die.
She's like, I'm okay.
Because most people would just be like, yeah, I'll tell you where he is.
Yeah.
Like,
I hired him here. Yeah, I met him. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we cut to Fabian, who wakes up, and he's like, how long has it been? It turns out it's been like a week or something, right? Since he got hit in the head. But he's still having those dreams while he's passed out. And so he goes to talk to Sebastian, who tells him it's been like a week. And it turns out he got a letter in the mail, and the letter was from, or I guess I don't know if it was from her, if it was news of her, but the woman that was in Barcelona, she actually lived. Someone pulled her out of the rubble, and like this grenade collapsed the entire building, and it went off in front of her face, basically.
But
she is fine.
She's got some ripped up clothes and like a bloody nose and mouth. That's about it.
Her lips got chapped maybe under there, so they're bleeding.
Yeah.
But yeah, they pull her out, and
she's a badass is what we're trying to say.
Yes, but she was able to send a letter to him to warn him that they're coming. And we cut to some unknown location.
Yes. Regions unknown.
Yeah, a scary house, and we see the main antagonist, and he's saying like, Fabian, I will get you, basically. And he's talking to 6 other like Zordons, I guess.
Yes. Some kind of secret council.
Yeah, like floating heads.
Yeah,
and they're talking to him like, oh, like you said you would bring him already, and what the fuck? Like you haven't got him yet, and why is it taking so long? And so obviously, these guys want the crystals as well, and we find out that this guy's name is Iago, and I was like, this guy likes the writer of this really likes literature, because it started with like a William Blake quote, and then there's 5 archetypes from literature, and then this guy Iago is from something else. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't read the classics, people, but Iago is definitely not from.
You mean Aladdin,
right? It's not Gilbert Godfrey. He should have pulled off his mask or his hood, and instead of it being like not a parrot, it should have been Gilbert Gottfried's face. He should have been the character model for this guy.
So I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I'm the sorcerer.
Yeah.
Gilbert Gottfried.
That's a terrible Gilbert Gottfried.
That is horrible.
Wow. So yeah. Anyway, then we cut to Oxford, and I will say this: this book gets around. So if you get lost in us saying like, oh yeah, now they're in Africa, now they're in Barcelona, now they do the whole like, well, they don't do it, but it's basically like Indiana Jones where there's like a map. And
they travel by red line.
Yeah, the plane's going all over the place, and yeah, they travel all lots. So they go to Oxford, is Oxford? I'm stupid. I don't know where Oxford is compared to London. Is it in London? Is it its own?
I think
Oxford a town
it's in London.
in England, or is now I just feel stupid. You have a phone.
Well, well, I mean, Oxford is the school.
I know Oxford is a school. Okay, whatever. We're looking really dumb right now. So I'm just gonna assume Oxford is not in London. It's a different place. But in Oxford, there is the woman that was in the photographs with him and Sebastian earlier.
Yes, Oxford is a city, actually. To double check just so we didn't.
We had to fact check.
56 miles northwest of London.
I knew it. I knew it was its own city. It just didn't sound right that there's just a school named Oxford for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot of oxen around Oxford. Anyway,
we're showing.
Yeah, our stupid. Our
colonial.
I read comics.
Our colonies.
I read comics.
Dumb colonies over here.
Yes, I read comics and I listen. I have a music degree. God damn it! So this is not my strong suit. But anyway, yeah. So Fabian goes to Oxford, and we find the woman that that was in those photographs, and he kneels down and says like, "Oh, it'll all be fine soon," and like, "Don't worry, I promise, I'll fix you." So she's in like some sort of coma or fugue state or something. She's not answering him or anything. And then we cut to Africa. Like I said, we're just cutting all over the place. But I don't know why. I guess, so he's always looking around the globe for the crystals.
Yes.
More crystals, I guess, to either charge him up or fix and repair his body. Because when he had his like original breakdown earlier, where he went all crazy and everything, Sebastian kind of figures out that like, oh, your body's like breaking down and it's getting worse every time you have one of these like moments where you lose control of your 5 ghosts or whatever. So like you need to figure out a way to take control of that. So part of that is getting the crystals and whatnot. So they go to Africa and they're flying over in like, an old school like prop plane, like a World War II. Actually, it's like a
World War I, yeah.
World War I biplane. And they're flying over Africa. It's desert at first, but then they fly and there's like a jungle. So it's kind of like, pick your Africa, guys, all right?
Yeah.
Is it the desert or is it a jungle? Pick one. Because they're flying over the desert and they're like, oh my God. And like spears fly out of bushes. And then they're like, we got to land. And they like see a lake and they're like, we got to land in the lake. I'm like, where the fuck is there like a Saharan desert mixed with like a giant lake mixed with lush jungle?
That's an oasis.
That's a big oasis.
I know.
It is a very large lake because when they show the plane crashing far away, it is like, like the lake spans the entire panel wide. So it's like very, very big lake. But yeah, so the spears come out of the bushes and are able to hit a plane. I was like, those
He's
spears.
flying low.
He's flying low, but it's pretty hard, I think, to hit plane. Like a plane goes 100-something miles an hour, and you're throwing a spear from the ground. It seems quite hard.
They got good aim.
Well, we might find out, like maybe later when we find out who these guys are as they get out of so the plane crashes, the Fabian and Sebastian get out of the water, and as they get out, they're surrounded by the natives. And the natives don't look like normal natives. They have fucking green eyes, and they have 8 green eyes, or a bunch of green eyes in their foreheads. So while they are natives, they're not normal natives. So maybe that's why they could throw a spear.
Yeah, they're looking 8 different directions at minimum. So
that's at least gonna get you a faster spear throw, right? Because you can see that plane extra or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, the second he gets confronted by them, like the samurai sword comes out, and he channels his inner samurai and starts killing these guys, like just straight up murdering them, which is pretty awesome. They didn't really attack him first, right? They knocked down the plane. Okay, they knocked down the plane, but that's not. They're like, okay, I guess one of them threw a spear, but he's going through them and just chopping off their heads. So it seems like maybe they just didn't know what they were looking at or something.
Yeah.
They're not trying to attack him. Like
No. This is very old school
Yeah.
comic where it's like the natives. Oh, they're not. They don't understand what's going on. So like
So let's chop their heads off.
Yeah.
because I don't want to die. So, but they actually end up wounding Sebastian with their spears, and then he kills 10 of them or whatever, and then that was like the first wave, because then there's a whole other part of the warriors that come out and surround them, and then he tries to channel his wizard, and then he has another mishap with his powers, and they won't work. They're not showing up when he needs them, and then it makes him pass out. So they both get taken by the natives, and when we get that's the end of this issue, and when we get to the next issue, we start off with this really cool sequence of it's 4 tiers of panels, of one single panel, and each one's telling a different story. So the top panel we see is sperm, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then the next panel is a couple young kids, a woman or a young girl and a young boy on an adventure in the Middle East somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we see a swashbuckling pirate of the same looking people, but they're older. So we just have basically different eras of this boy and girl, Fabian, and it was the girl in the bed that he was making the promise to fix in the last issue.
Yeah.
It's their adventures, and then we find out through the sperm wasn't just there for no reason. It turns out that was actually their twins, and that was their conception happening, so they have some kind of bond, and that's why he's so broken up about whatever happened to her, and he always says it's his fault and everything. So that's why he's I must fix you because you're my twin sister, and also I think I said this earlier, but Sebastian was dating her at least, or maybe they had a relationship,
some kind of relationship.
Yeah, so he's basically not his brother-in-law, but close enough or whatever. So then when Fabian wakes up, because that was his dream basically of when he's passed out, he has that dream, and then he wakes up, and this is very Conan-esque. I thought he's just they're both tied to 2 pillars in the middle of a room, and they're surrounded by these natives, and they're about to be sacrificed to some spider gods. And I thought this was cool. There's giant spiders hanging in the ceiling, and their venom is dripping off of their pincers or whatever. Their what would that be? Their mouths.
They're.
I was not proboscis. Whatever a spider's mouth is called. Their fangs. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. So and then we see on the outside the people guarding this hidden temple where they're being sacrificed is getting the shit beat out of him. The guard is being attacked by someone. We don't know who it is. And this guy, we get a good look at him, and he's an Asian fellow with a jewel of his own. He looks a lot like he should be in what's the place from Doctor Strange?
Oh, Carmitage or
yeah.
The Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah, one of those places. 'Cause he looks like he definitely could be in a Doctor Strange book.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, and he's walking through this temple, and he's hearing the natives chanting, "Shan Rav go, Shan Rav go." Kalima, Kalima.
Yeah.
This definitely had some Temple of Doom vibes going on.
Very much so.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They're you can see where they're pulling things from, and it's good.
It was like an homage. It wasn't they're stealing it or they're trying to reference.
And I don't remember giant spiders in Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly. In the 3 Indiana Jones, there's no giant spiders.
Maybe that's the new one.
Ooh, the 4th one will have spiders?
No, the 5th one, sir.
I don't know what you're talking about, John.
The 5th one had
you always get the numbers
The 5th
wrong.
one had aliens.
No, it didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, so right, and this is very lucky, I guess, but the jewel that the Asian guy has begins to light up the closer he gets to the 2 men that are tied up. And Fabian, I guess, feels the power of this Dreamstone, because it actually is a Dreamstone that he has. And he powers out, and I thought this was fucking awesome. He literally Super Saiyans out, and just a blast comes out, and it chars the spider, and everybody except it doesn't kill his buddy. It doesn't kill Sebastian, but it kills like all the villagers within like a certain radius. They're just skeletons.
Just like
it just burns them away. And Sebastian's like, oh my god, I'm okay. Like, which I thought was fun. But yeah, so now they're on the run still from these villagers. But the villagers are kind of like, oh fuck, like, we don't want to mess with that guy necessarily. So they, Fabian and Sebastian go down a tunnel, and they're like, Fabian's like, I can feel something. Like, the reason why they go into this certain tunnel is because he feels it stronger in there. And then as they go into the tunnel, they find like a bunch of treasure, and Sebastian's like, we've hit a gold mine. Like fuck your crystal. Like, this is better than everything. And then they look up and they see, oh, there's a bunch of spiders.
More giant spiders.
Yeah, this is like a Shelob. This is like Shelob's horde or something, like from Lord of the Rings.
Shelob or Harry Potter, Aragog, because he's got all the other spiders too. They're mostly little, but they're different, varying sizes.
Yeah, I guess.
Why is it gotta be spiders?
I guess I was thinking more like the Hobbit.
Well, yeah, no, but Harry Potter had multiple spiders because Aragog's home has.
Well, the Hobbit has multiple spiders too, Joe.
I only remember Shelob.
That's Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit.
Oh, that's right. They're the spiders in the forest. I know. I feel horrible.
Come on, John.
I know, and I love The Hobbit. That's one of my absolute favorite.
It's
one of my absolute favorite books. I just was.
It's my favorite book. I don't even remember the main.
You said Shelob at first, and I was like, "There's only one."
Well, yeah, but that's her young. That's her young.
Yes, I just didn't think. I wasn't thinking that far back to The Hobbit.
John's a poser. Anyway,
how dare you, sir?
Anyway, they're surrounded by spiders, and they like Fabian starts channeling his inner archer and all this stuff, and so they're fighting. And I thought this was fun. Sebastian has no fight skills at all, so he's just like like he's just running away, like trying to get out of danger as much as possible. There's some fun, like, okay, I guess I'll go with that. Like Fabian takes a shield or some kind of giant gold spider shield or something. It's round, it's a disc, but it's like would obviously weigh, I don't know, 100 pounds or something, because it looks like it's made of solid gold or bronze or something. And he's able to throw it like a frisbee at a stalactite. That's the ones that hang, right?
Yeah, tight to the ceiling.
Yeah, so he throws it at a stalactite, and it just perfectly cuts two off, and lands on a spider each. Very, very well aimed and lucky. I guess maybe that's like the archer part of him or something. So, but even with that, they're still getting surrounded. And then we cut back into the chamber where the natives were. And as they run into there, the Asian guy is like, hurry up. We got to get out of here. And so he's carving a path through these natives, and he already knows who they are. He's talking to them. And Fabian starts following him and like is like, oh my god, like the power of that crystal is very, it's affecting me. But it starts to affect him negatively. I don't know why, but it kind of seemed like sometimes it just at certain moments, whenever the story needed it, it would either work really well or not work at all.
Yeah.
So, but he's kind of faints right now, so Sebastian has to kind of pull him out of this room and like help him get out while the Asian guy is fighting all the villagers. And then the villagers start chasing them, and they're riding these spiders, which I thought was pretty cool. And it's like, well, we're not going to get out. You got to do it, man. And Fabian's like, all right. And he channels, I guess out of desperation, he's able to channel the vampire. And he vamps out. And he massacres like everybody.
Yeah, and like we said, like I guess when it comes down to that, you said, kind of berserker and just literally just mows down a crowd of people and the giant spiders.
Yeah, and even his friends, like the Asian guy has to stop Fabian from attacking Sebastian in vampire mode. And I thought, basically, whenever you want him to not be, and this is funny because he's in vampire mode. He is a vampire right now. You would think a tap to the back of the head wouldn't knock him out, but it does because it's the Asian guy who taps him on the back of the head. Either that, or maybe his head is just sensitive because he's got hit so much in the back of the head.
Maybe he's got hit. That's his weak spot.
That's his Achilles.
Yeah.
Head.
His Achilles head.
So but they knock him out. They're able to run out of there before the rest of the spiders. I guess
there are more.
There's just never-ending spiders and natives coming out of this temple.
I don't know where you put all these giant spiders, but there are a lot.
You know what this reminded me of? The inside of that place reminded me of like the end of Congo, where like there's just all these holes in the walls, and then these giant gorillas come out.
Just come out of nowhere, yeah.
Every hole has a bunch of gorillas in it, and wherever you run, they're at. It was like that, but no laser gun, unfortunately.
Oh.
Where they just murder all these gorillas. They're like, we want to study gorillas. Kill them! Kill those fucking gorillas. They want to protect their diamonds. So yeah, fuck those gorillas. That's what I got from that movie.
Those bad gorillas.
Yeah.
Matt.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Amy did say they were the bad gorillas.
Bad gorillas.
Good point, John. So anyway, as they are running out of there, before they can get really hurt by anybody, I don't know who's flying this, but apparently there was a dirigible, a zeppelin, if you will, that was hanging. I guess the Asian guy just has.
I think it's parked. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
There is. I mean, it's got weights on it, but it should be still blowing in the wind.
It's anchored there, and the wings
anchored. There's no anchor.
Those are sandbags to keep it.
Okay, the
level,
sandbags are hanging 6 feet below. It's.
They're really heavy.
Yeah, but they're not attached to the ground, so it would still blow.
Yeah, but the
John, shut the fuck up. If a ship is just hanging,
I know, but it also has the ladder down, so maybe the ladder is just enough.
If the ship is in the ocean and you have the anchor that's not touching the bottom, it's still going to move.
There's magic in this.
Okay, it's a magic zeppelin. Okay, whatever. So it's a lead zeppelin.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought this was pretty crazy too. The Asian guy is able to lift Fabian up a rope ladder on his over his shoulder. So he's one-handing someone. He's one-handing the rope ladder, which I was like, holy shit! I don't know if you ever climbed up
core strength.
If you ever,
it's incredible.
I don't know. That's more than core, man. That's like some crazy shit right there. That's some crazy balance. I guess he's got some powers, so
yeah.
That's what that's for. But the last page we see that Iago is in his crystal ball looking at this happen, and he can see the zeppelin and everything, so he knows what's going to happen. So the next issue starts, and we get a little. I don't know where this is supposed to be. It's some school. We get a cut to a school, or we start off in a school, and there's a professor talking about the dreaming. And I don't know if he's an English professor or something, but he's talking about like where characters come from, where stories come from. And he's kind of saying it like, I'm going to get a little philosophical on you here, John. I don't know if you know, I think it's Plato. I think it's Plato that had the idea that like these things exist in an ether. They exist and we like find them, but they exist like the ideas. So like example would be before someone invented the wheel, that concept exists in space somewhere. And it took a man going like realizing that it's there and like on a subconscious level or something, and somehow tapping into that thing to then go, oh, I'm going to make the wheel.
To pull it into
existence. So he's talking like that about there's this world called the dreaming. It's like a realm beyond our stuff, and that's where all stories and characters and themes come from. Everyone. And he's saying that must be it because so many cultures have had the same stories over and over and over. And the only explanation that he can come up with, that he's telling his students, is that the dreaming is connecting us all, and those ideas exist beyond us.
It's like a Spider-Verse or Metaverse or...
Yes, there's a crisis happening in DC somewhere. There's a multiverse. There's an Earth 3 or whatever. Yes, these things exist. But yeah, just the idea. I thought that was interesting that they're kind of like throwing these philosophical ideas out, but like not saying that really, at all. They're just like, oh, these are like, we're gonna say this philosophical idea, but we're just gonna talk about it as if it's like stories or whatever. So this is a cool concept that they throw in there. But we see that this professor, he goes outside after class, and a nice car pulls up, and he gets in. And we see he's talking to a Nazi.
Goddamn Nazi.
Goddamn Nazi. Okay, now keep in mind, this is 1940-something. So right in the middle of World War II. There's a car with a Nazi in it.
Again, this very much reminded me of like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
There's no Nazis that pull up in America in a car in Indiana Jones.
Well, and this is probably
Wearing a Nazi hat.
This is probably in London, and the car you can't see in it for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
This is before tinted glass, John. So, he's got a Nazi commandant hat on in a very Boss Hugo uniform. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I would imagine he could be seen, but I guess, it's a comic, so we're going to assume that.
You don't look at inside other people's cars. You keep your eyes on the sidewalk in front of you, or you're not paying attention to what's going on.
Right. I guess so.
Don't look at your peripherals.
No one notices the Rolls Royce car driving down the road.
And clearly the Nazi sitting in the back.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, we just see that professor is working with the Nazis, and they're like working with Iago to get the crystals or whatever. So to get Fabian, actually. And then we cut back to the Zeppelin, and we find out that this Asian guy's name is Zhang Guo, and he has brought them to like a mysterious city. He's saying it's the forgotten city of Shangri-La. Don't know if it's actually that, but that's what he's saying it is. And I like how they introduce him. Fabian and Sebastian go into like this big room, and he's sitting there on one of those like day couches or a day bed or whatever, and he's like, reclined sideways, like leaning on his elbow, eating grapes or whatever. And there's this two women, one woman on either side of him. One's fanning him and one has a drink. And I was like, wow. Zhang Guo is very, very old school. Yes. But yeah, I thought there's just like a funny way to introduce him, like especially in his city. We've already seen him like fighting and all that stuff. So it took me aback that like, oh, he's just the king.
He's
of
like
this place.
ruler.
Yeah. And so it's funny because there's not too many other people here other than these hot ladies. So it's just Zhang and all these hot ladies, which is pretty good place to have, I guess. Forbidden City. Why is it forbidden? Is it because there's so many ladies?
It's forbidden for other men.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. But we get a little backstory of him. Basically, we find out that he was just a regular treasure hunter kind of back in the day. He looked different too. And then he found the crystal that's in his necklace, and that had the spirit of the, I guess, king or whatever of Shangri-La. And so it possessed him and took him over, and that's why he's like the ruler of Shangri-La. It's kind of like if the five ghosts could just take him over completely. Yeah. Or one of the five ghosts or whatever. So it's like that where he has all the skills and everything of that king, and he is presenting as that king and everything, like he is the embodiment of that king. And we find out later that basically his regular body's like fucking dead or whatever. So, but yeah, so, but we get like this, and it seems like he's very much older, older than at least like 1,000 years old is what I'm thinking, because just the way that later on when he's fighting and stuff happens is, oh, okay, he seems very much older. But so Zhang's talking to Fabian about it, and Fabian reveals like, or I guess I don't know if he reveals it, but I guess Zhang just rips open his shirt because Fabian's like, I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Yeah, because he's trying to tell him, he's like, I'm an ally to you, basically. Like, I know about the crystals. I know about the.
He's like, crystals? What crystals?
Dreamstones. Pardon me.
Whatever.
And but he's like, I know about this, and basically, like, I know that they're a conduit, so like, we don't have to, like, I know.
Yeah, like we're both feeling the same thing in this room, bro. Like we get it, we understand, and so. But Fabian's trying to play it off like, what are you talking about, man? I don't know what you're talking about. Dreamstones, what's that?
And he's like, come on now.
And he rips open his shirt very aggressively. And I like this. There's just these like crazy looking wounds on his scars on his chest where these stones are embedded and they're glowing. But he's also got like a Tom Selleck chest, which I thought was nice. Like when Tom Selleck was supposed to be Indiana Jones, that's what I assume. It's gonna look like that. So. Still
a burly chest.
Yeah, burly chest, which isn't around nowadays that often. So, but yes, what do you mean? You don't. Okay, this is a thing from the '90s. Go look at any Wolverine or comic with Wolverine in it. Look how fucking hairy he is.
True.
They don't draw that anymore.
No, they don't.
I think it's just for ease, like to draw every arm hair on a person is annoying now.
That's a lot of
But they used to go all out on Wolverine, and also fucking Nightwing had some pretty awesome chest hair and arm hair back in the day too, and that flowing mullet he had, which was awesome. So, so they don't do that anymore. So I thought it was fun that they did it on this, just for that one scene though. He's always wearing a shirt otherwise. So, but yeah, so they're like, I guess, like Fabian's like, fine, I guess we're on the same team. And right when they kind of agree to be on the same team, one of the ladies in the Forbidden City that was fanning him is like, oh my God, I don't feel so good. Something's happening. And she turns around and she's got a zombie face. And she's been possessed by the bad guys, I guess.
Yeah.
And we don't really know how, but basically the bad guys tracked them down in the Forbidden City. And
did you think you could hide for us forever?
Yeah, I guess it's because there's so much crystals like together or whatever. And they Fabian is able to cut off her head because he's got a samurai. And he pulls that. I don't know where his sword was, but he pulled it out and was able to cut off her head. And then we find out that Zhang knows that Fabian's dying, and he's like, "Hey, I have a solution for you." There's like basically a Lazarus pit in this. In this temple, and you can just go in there in the water and it will heal you. And but you must know that you have to go through like these trials and stuff if you go in there, so you have to go in willingly and of your own volition. And Fabian's like, yeah, I'll do it. And so Zhao's like, okay, we'll like protect you while you go do your thing. And so they tie Fabian to like this crazy like cross, basically. It's like a modified stone cross. And they hang him, and then they put him in the water, and like there's a rope on it, so he can. I don't know how he gets up, but basically they're like drowning him because he's tied to this stone.
Yeah.
So they put him underwater, and then right as he goes underwater, they get attacked. The Forbidden City is being attacked by Iago and the bad guys.
Whatever spirits he's possessing in the other.
Yeah, because Iago has powers. He can like make a dragon manifest and stuff. So he's some kind of sorcerer as well. Then we start the next issue, and Fabian is underwater again, and he's got to go through 5 trials, we find out, and the trials are from each of his ghosts. So basically, what we find out is that his ghosts, like we said earlier, did not want to be part of him. They were just kind of thrust literally into his body from the explosion of the crystal, and when that happened, they ended up being able to, he's able to use them and tap into them, but they don't want to be part of him. So this test or trial, the only thing that will heal him is getting their acceptance.
Yeah.
Giving their permission to like use them or be a part of them or whatever. So he's got to pass these tests. So the first test is there's like he's going in this weird dream world. It's a forest. He sees a fox who's got his foot caught in a fox trap. And the archer comes up, and I don't exactly know what happens here, but like he picks up the fox, and the fox has his head, like has Fabian's head, which I was like, what? And then like it's some weird dream logic thing.
I think it's supposed to be like you like if
you're caught,
you're caught. So if you like you have to let yourself free or
something like that. Whatever. But yeah, so
we're interpreting dreams now too.
Yeah, exactly. So
very Freudian.
At least not having sex with his mom in the dream. So, the samurai is though.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so we cut back and this chapter's interesting because we're cutting back and forth between the fight with Iago and Zhang. I'm sorry. Yeah, Zhang. And Fabian in his dream. So it's like we're getting cuts of like the fight happening, and I thought this was cool as Iago has his big dragon that he's riding on, and he's like, I'll just fucking murder you guys because Sebastian and Zhang are there. And he has the dragon shoot fire at them, and we just see them engulfed in flames. I'm like, holy shit!
Yeah, I thought
they just murdered them. Like really, I thought for sure like that was not going to happen because Sebastian seems like a pretty important part of this comic, at least to Fabian, and so does Zhang. Zhang's like an important character right now, at least. So, yeah. And so we find out that basically. The power of Zhang is able to protect Sebastian and him. So he kind of powers up, Zhang does, with his crystal, and he takes Iago on one-on-one with like a sword battle.
It felt very like when they powered up, like they got their colored auras, and it kind of felt a little Dragon Ball, a little Star Wars ass.
Sure.
Like your Schwartz is bigger. I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Little combination of all that in there.
Yeah, sure.
It was just fun.
His power level was over 9,000 for sure.
Yes.
So, but I thought this. I was like, really? Basically, Iago gets the better of Zhang. He's like, they're like Zhang's doing a good job, and then all of a sudden, like he goes to punch him closely, and I liked this. You wouldn't catch it until you get to the last panel of the page. But Zhang's got his medal on his chest, and then he's punching Iago, and the next panel he comes back to punch again, and the medal's not his medallion's not on his chest anymore. And it turns out Iago, he's got some fast hands. He pickpocketed, took it off his neck or whatever. Haha, I got it. And he just fucking smashes that crystal, and it kills Iago instantly. Like he melts. He fucking bad guy from Indiana Jones in the last, or not the what's the first one called? The Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
his fucking face melts completely.
It looks really good too.
That's why I was saying he must have been very old, because that's like the spirit of the, king of the Forbidden City dies with the crystal being broken. So his actual body is left, and his actual body just turns to dust. So, he's pretty old. So now Sebastian is there, and he's like, no, but like it's just probably because, fuck, I'm here by myself, and I got to fight Iago. So then we get a little. I kind of skipped over a lot of the stuff going on with Fabian, but basically he gets through all these trials, and he ends up with the vampire trial being the last one, and when he gets to that trial, he sees the vampire has Sylvia's soul.
It looks like it, yeah. I guess assuming it's her soul.
I guess her consciousness, maybe, or whatever, in chains, like at his feet. And so it seems like maybe that's what happened to his sister. And we also see like Cthulhu tentacles like coming up from the floor and whatnot. So it's like, okay, interesting. Then the next issue starts, and we see what actually happened now, finally. So in the past, Fabian and his sister were both treasure hunters, and Sebastian was her boyfriend. And they were going adventures together, and Fabian found these crystals, these dream crystals, and he was very excited about them. And I don't remember what does he do? Does he just look at them and they explode or some shit? I can't remember how they explode, but basically he touches them or something. He like grabs them, or I don't know how they explode, but they do explode in the library that he had him in, like on a pedestal with his sister nearby. And he gets the crystals embedded in his chest, which gives him the powers. And his sister gets grabbed into the ether or whatever, the nether realm dimension or whatever, by some Cthulhu tentacles. And I guess her soul does. So like it's weird because it shows the tentacles grabbing her body, but then some ghost tentacles come out and grab her soul out of her body. And then I guess just the regular tentacles drop her body. Just dropping,
yeah.
So her body is still on Earth, but she's left, in a coma basically. And so that is what the history behind what happened to them. In the meantime, Iago's going around and killing any people that are in the Forbidden City.
I guess they've got like warriors, and they've got some like other monks
and stuff.
And I love there's like a monk that comes around the corner, and it's like, whoop. Like
what's going on?
What's going on? And Iago's like, ha!
I thought this was funny because he kind of looks like John C. Reilly from Anger Management. He just looks like a white guy, basically. Like, I've come here for enlightenment.
He does. He looks like that, or
like Rob Reiner,
or Will Sasso.
Or Will Sasso, yes.
That's very much a Will Sasso face. Yes. Like, ooh,
yeah, for sure. Like he's just murdering people in this Forbidden City, which is fun. And Sebastian's like, oh shit, I got to get out of here. I got to go to that resurrection water place or whatever.
Yeah, got to pull him up.
Got to pull up Fabian. And I didn't quite understand what was going on with this dream with the vampire that Fabian's having. He doesn't pass the test at first because he's like really trying to save his sister, and he's like puking up water and weird shit's happening. And the vampire actually says, you failed. And then as Sebastian starts to like bring him up and like cry his name and stuff, he realizes, I guess it snaps him out of what's going on, and he realizes he has a flashback of he has a flash of his actual sister's spirit saying like, this, it's not me. That's not me. And so he kind of realizes, oh, the one that the vampire has is a fake sister consciousness or whatever, and that was the test to recognize that it was his sister.
Yeah, like it was fake, and like that he needs to like go after like his real friends are the people that are there and not the people that aren't there.
I don't know, something like that. So then he wakes up, he's fully restored now, and by restored I mean now all of his ghosts are on his side and willing to work with him power wise. So they're not draining him, he's not dying, at least as much right now, or they're working with him, they're not fighting him. And so right as he gets out of the water, we see Sebastian's about to be stabbed by Iago, but Iago has not fought a full-powered Fabian. So they go off, and I thought this was stupid of Iago. He takes his fucking monk shawl off or whatever and reveals his own crystal embedded in his own chest. I was like, well, we all know what you're supposed to do to crystals if you want those people to stop. Yeah. Now, unlike Fabian's crystals that are smaller and embedded deeper, and it's not like you can just find them and break them.
Yeah.
This is literally like the center of his chest.
Yeah, and one
giant crystal.
It's literally like the entire length of his chest almost too. So
yeah. So Iago pulls, the old summon a dragon from the water thing, and he summons a dragon in there, and Fabian's able to fight it off with his powers and stuff, and makes it go away, and then he sword fights with. I thought that there was a lot of swashbuckling in this for sure.
He's got to show off all his different powers.
I enjoy swashbuckling. I just thought, wow, there's at least 3 or 4 sword fight scenes in this, which is interesting. But you can tell what the writer likes and what the artist likes possibly to draw.
Yeah,
which is good. I like that. You get to have a fun comic you guys get to draw together, or write and create together. But anyway. So Fabian summons, of course, his samurai to fight Iago with the sword, and it turns out Iago's a pretty good sword fighter. Even though Zhang was getting better than him at the sword, Fabian's not as good. And so he resorts to just fucking tackling.
This was I want to make note of this one because this part took me a second. So Iago gets the better of him. And he's like, aha, like you're weak and I am, basically I'm going to finish this. And so you see Fabian like turn back around and the detective appears. And then the next panel shows him like pushing him into
Iago
pushing
some stalagmites.
And I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why did the detective show up? I don't understand. And I'm like, oh, it's because you look back a couple panels when he's like, aha, you're weak. He's standing in front of a waterfall, and he realizes that there are more rocks and stalagmites behind the waterfall.
Yeah, so he's detecting that.
Detected that.
I guess.
Yeah. I don't know how he saw but I guess he just barely saw him through the the water, so
whatever. And so that one of the stalagmites goes straight through Iago's body and breaks the crystal through his chest, and his face melts, but he's like, if you think I'm dead, you're wrong, or whatever. And, it's almost like, the spirit leaves, but it's still around somewhere to come back in a later volume, probably. So that's pretty much it. They, walk out, him and Sebastian, are like, well, that was crazy.
That was crazy.
Yeah. It's like, well, luckily, I'm full powered now, and I have full use of my ghosts. Off to bigger, better adventures. And so that's basically how it ends. It leaves with a very, pulp ending, I would say, where just the second the action's over, it's like, and that's the end. There's no wrap up or any other important shit to say.
Aha! Until the next one.
Yes. Oh, there is an epilogue, a slight epilogue, and that epilogue, we cut to a house.
The house that was in the middle of nowhere.
Yes. Is it that house?
Yeah, parts unknown house.
Okay. All right. I didn't put that together because they don't show the same shot or anything. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it looks similar.
I mean, okay. I'll take your word for it, John. But they go into the house, and we see some interesting drawings on a table and a man who looks a lot like H.P. Lovecraft. And it turns out H.P. Lovecraft is working with the Nazi and the
the
professor.
professor guy.
Yeah, from the school.
And
who
they're
was talking about Dreamstones.
We did not get him, but he doesn't know who he's dealing with. Bum bum bum.
Yeah, he's
And then
the
it ends.
H.P. Lovecraft, motherfucker. Which makes sense because we're talking about
Tentacles.
Cthulhu tentacles coming out of
Yeah.
portals and shit. So, yeah, that's the end of the book, the trade. So, John, what did you think of it? What would you give it?
It was really fun. It was it was a pretty straightforward story. There wasn't too many things that I had to like, well, what happened? What's going on?
Yeah.
Most of that I think it was just because of how fast it was as a read too. I think that I may have just got ahead of myself a couple of times, honestly.
Yeah, it very much flew by. Like, I think I read the whole trade in like max a half hour.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fast for 5 issues.
But the art was solid. It was cool. And matter of fact, there are sometimes I was like, oh, that's really cool
I
looking.
really liked the art in the second issue with the natives in the temple.
Yeah.
That like the way that I don't know if the coloring or whatever was the issue or the difference, but the way that they did the coloring on that really made it feel like a pulp, like 40s comic.
Oh yeah, very much so. And then like the way like because each of the characters like when they had their the ghost powers moment, like they all had a little different like change of style a little bit, especially the vampire.
Oh yeah, he
got
would get all
berserky
gothic
and like
everything.
gothic and like very like long drawn out. Like you could tell like he's kind of like zooming between things. It was cool, but I like the style. So Chris Mooneyham, that was good
job.
art. And like I said, the story overall, it was fun. Like you said, being a quick read and didn't have any, and never was bored.
Yeah,
and I think this does fall for the like that the backstory, the initial thing of like, okay, well, I don't quite get all the choices that were made, but like, I guess we gotta keep reading to learn about some of that. And I think if there was enough, I would go to the next one at least. I wasn't like, yes, I want to read this whole story, but like, I'm intrigued enough.
Yeah,
and I definitely am like we were saying earlier, is like the vampire kind of does seem out of place. So like, why is that? What is? Why?
There's got to be a reason.
Yeah, what is the reason for other than like you're saying like just character archetypes? Like, why a vampire? Like the other ones, like even like you can kind of feel around all the same like almost time frame. I mean, the samurais a little bit, but in general, like they all kind of do fit together. But the vampire, still out there.
Right.
But yeah, but overall, I liked it. Easy read. Anybody could pick this up. I'll give it a 6. It was a solid read.
Nice. I'm gonna give this one a 6.5, 6.5. Yeah, I just felt like I actually would continue reading this because I don't think it's a very long series, and knowing that, I would just be like, I want to finish it and just see where it goes because it just seems like it was one of those books where it could stick the landing really good, or it could just go off the rails and maybe not be as good as it promises it could be, in the first trade. Because if it continues with like the pulpiness and all that, I would really enjoy it. It's such a fast read that I would be like, oh yeah, no problem. To pick it up. I was telling you earlier that like we read this on Hoopla for free because it's the library app. If I had to buy this for $12, I would kind of feel like maybe not cheated, but just like, oh, I read that in a half hour. Like, like sometimes if I spend the money on a book, I want it to last a little bit longer than that. But that's kind of just preference, I guess, personally. But it was very fun to read. It was never boring, and I never was like, come on, get to the point. I read it all. I got it all. And I really liked the feel, especially of the second issue, where I was like, this feels like a Conan comic. Because the whole like natives thing and the temples and spiders and all that shit. So I liked that a lot, and it's just like a good adventure pulp comic, and it was fun. There's no point to it other than just to tell a fun story.
Yeah, and
I like that. I sometimes comics get bogged down with whatever's going on in the world or whatever message the authors are trying to get across and stuff. Like even like Alan Moore and stuff. When you read it, sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like reading an Alan Moore story right now. Like it's not. It's not there just for fun. It's there because he's trying to fucking blow your mind or tell you something beyond, like change your understanding of the world or whatever. And that's cool when you're in the mood for it. But sometimes I just want to read fun comics, and this is of that category for me. And it fit that niche very well. So that's why I was like, I think this is a little bit better than a 6. The art was really good. I mean, the art was what I think pushed it over for me to the 6.5. If the art wasn't as good, I could see it still being a 6 for the writing, but the art just made it that much better. So next week we are reading X Factor: The Epic Collection, Angel of Death, which is the storyline where Angel becomes Archangel, which is something that I've always wondered and never knew the actual story of.
Yeah, I just remember Archangel from the old 90s cartoon. So
yes, which is where I think the first time I ever saw Archangel, I'm almost 100% sure was from those old Flare cards.
Yeah.
So I know I had like Wolverine in a sewer, and I thought it was the coolest looking fucking shiny card or whatever. And then I know there was an Archangel one that I was like, oh my god, he looks so cool. Never knew that it was the same Angel. I just was like, oh, Archangel, that's cool. And then someone said, oh, that's Angel from X-Men. Like, it's the same guy or whatever. I was like, oh, how did he become? And I was like, I wonder where that happens in X-Men. It doesn't. It happens in X Factor. So, that's like one of the side X titles that was going on in the 80s. So we're going to read that, finally figure out the mystery of how Angel became Archangel. Spoilers, he gets corrupted by Apocalypse, but I don't know how. So we'll find that out. And I don't think
just like the Age of Apocalypse movie, I'm sure.
Exactly, I'm sure it was just like that, which I never watched. So I'm just gonna assume it was bad.
Oh, okay. It was fine. It wasn't. Days of Future Past was really good, and then it was just to come out after that. It was like
follow up that wasn't.
It was like, man,
yeah, it was all right. I just was like, I don't want to watch Apocalypse on the screen. He's too weird looking, so just didn't fit it.
It was surprising, especially just on a side note of that if you look at the original concept art they had for that, and then what they went with the movie. Not that anything I love Oscar Isaac, and I'm Moon Knight's coming. I'm excited for that, but the original design was like, it looked just like the comics. So
right.
And then they were like, let's go with this muted blue tone, a lot smaller.
It's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird. So, we'll see.
Anyway, X Factor though.
X Factor. We're gonna find out how Angel became Archangel. And if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planestrains.comicbooks, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget to check out our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. And like we said at the top of the podcast, ko-fi.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word, gets all of our stuff in one place, lets you know just if you miss something during the week. We put out and let everybody know, like, this is what we did this whole week.
You don't even have to support us. You can just follow us on that, and you'll get like a newsletter every time we send out our weekly updates, and it has everything that we put out media-wise, all my comic reviews on YouTube, all the Matt's Minis and regular podcasts, so everything we do. And then if you do feel like supporting us, we have a couple tier memberships, or just you can donate a one-time thing. And if you join the Blue and Gold membership, you too can recommend a book, just like Otaku Mike did, and we will read it, unless it's something weird, very, very weird. But we will probably read it, unless it's like some weird... I can't even imagine.
Unless it's like some smut magazine or something, like an actual...
I'd read that.
Matt would read that one.
I would read that, but we wouldn't review it. I'll review
we read it. It was...
I'll review it privately. I'll be in my bunk. But anyway, so if you would like to do that, please do. It really helps us out, and we, want to keep doing good content for you guys, and keep putting it out there and doing more stuff. We always have good ideas, but we're like, hey, we can't really justify doing that time-wise because, we don't this is not a job for us. This is our fun hobby that we do every week. So just for you guys, and also because we love comics as well. So if you feel so inclined, please support. And if not, just, feel free to email us. Let us know that you like our stuff, tweet and all that.
Like, share, subscribe, comment.
Yeah, all that stuff helps. And, I think that's it for today.
I'll see you on the next one.
Bye.